Lottoriddles reach. This is sharp. Come take a seat. Lottoriddles reach. This is Char Mace Santia. I have a theory, an interesting theory. Been looking at this for a minute, and I've just been thinking there's various forms of dementia, but just hear me out. I have a theory. I am not a doctor. I just have a theory about it. I've looked into this, and from what I theorize, dementia seems to be just internal bleeding into the brain. If I recall correctly, let me get my notes. The medical term is called a subarachnoid hemorrhage. I think I pronounced that right, which is bleeding into the brain. So the brain, in a sense, would be floating in a tank of liquid or blood, the skull, of course. Your brain soaking in blood can decline cognitive abilities, and that's what it does. So if we were to look at the root of this problem, notice I said it's blood, internal bleeding, which is leading into the brain. Where does this originate? Now, this theory word is going to get abused because this could potentially help a lot of people. And I'm going to try to keep it simple, because for the most part, when I looked into this, it seemed a bit simple. And that kind of disturbed me a little bit. So what could the root of this problem be? My theory is that it's an aneurysm, for a ruptured aneurysm. Now, for those who don't know what a aneurysm is, it's a blood vessel that's been hurt, so to speak. It's the wall of the blood vessel. Say you like hit your head and you get a big knot on your head. That's what happens to a blood vessel when it is hurt. When it is weakened, it tends to bulge out. They call it ballooning. I think you can look at it as like swelling. So that would be an aneurysm. Now, if you were to further hurt this aneurysm, this bulging, swelling, ballooning area, you could rupture the aneurysm. Rupture simply means bursting it. So say it swelled up like a pimple after you damaged it. You damaged the blood vessel by a bad fall and it swelled up. Well, if you were to further damage this swelling and it bust, that's what they call a rupture. And what that does, that leads to internal bleeding. This ruptured aneurysm, aka burst blood vessel, leaking blood vessel, this can be in your foot, and it can still make its way to the brain. Again, my theory is that the blood leaks into the brain, and over time, because if you look at the x-rays of a say a dementia patient, if you look at their brain, it looks like it's been soaking in some form of fluid. We know that to be blood. But internal bleeding in general can kill you. Now you have it leaking in the brain. The problem with this is that a lot of aneurysms can have no symptoms. You can live decades with a ruptured aneurysm, a broken blood vessel leaking, internally bleeding. You can live with this for decades. Theoretically speaking, and I'm putting two and two together. So a person can hurt their leg at age 19 and start showing signs of dementia in their 50s, 60s, maybe. So that may be an extreme case. The problem would be, I would say a solution to this problem, this leaking into the brain, would be to find the ruptured aneurysm. I think that the major problem here is a lot of patients don't know they have a ruptured aneurysm. So if you don't know that you have a ruptured aneurysm, you could just be bleeding and bleeding and bleeding. That will eventually take you out. So if any doctor wanted to try to, say, take a jab at this theory, that would mean searching up and down. I don't know whether it's an x-ray. You would search a person's body up and down, left and right, until you find that ruptured aneurysm, till you find that leaking blood vessel, which in many cases had zero symptoms. Many of these ruptured aneurysms, and I repeat with the leaking blood vessel, just to keep people who don't know the medical terms, up to speed. Search for it. If a doctor ever says they're showing signs of dementia, I'm willing to bet there's leaking blood in the brain, and I'm willing to bet there's some leaking blood vessel, there's some ruptured aneurysm somewhere in the body. So it would be up to the doctor to search for it, depending on how big of a decline the patient has. I would ask the patient, hey, did you have a fall somewhere, or can you think of any moment in your history where you may have hurt yourself really, really bad? Because it could potentially have caused an aneurysm that ruptured. That's what I would ask. And if you can't pinpoint, because that would narrow down the search, I would just search the body up and down, left and right, thoroughly, meticulously, and I would find that ruptured aneurysm. So if that theoretically is the case, you patch up the aneurysm. Of course, you're going to deal with the blood in the brain, the subarachnoid hemorrhage. You get the brain out of soaking in blood, basically. You take care of that. I would estimate maybe about 7 weeks, you put them in cognitive rehabilitation. They should be exercising that brain mentally. Math problems, you pretty much know how to take care of that. Get them back to thinking, and coming back alive. This problem could be just that simple. You're playing a game of finding the leaking blood vessel, finding the ruptured aneurysm. Once you find it, you patch it up, drain the brain. I think they go into surgery for a subarachnoid hemorrhage. Get that all taken care of. Cognitive rehabilitation. Get their brain back to thinking. And grandma may remember you owe her some money. I can't stress this enough. It is key to note that a person can go their entire lifetime without noticing an aneurysm, especially a ruptured one. They can be bleeding into their brain their entire life with no symptoms. And I think, again, that's one of the biggest problems. So when the symptoms come, if the symptoms come, search for it. See what you find.